Narratives. Narratives are something that are built around every NHL team that can either set the tone or destroy the way that fans view their favorite organizations. You need to have a real superstar to win a Stanley Cup. This team is not built for postseason hockey. This group is on fraud watch until we see them win a playoff series. These are just a few narratives that have followed the Winnipeg Jets throughout their 2024-25 campaign. Over the past 2 seasons, the Winnipeg Jets have been the best regular season team across the NHL, carrying a record of 105 wins, 42 losses, and 10 OT losses. However, despite dominating the regular season, their shaky playoff appearance last year has stained the organization, leading to some skepticism regarding their roster construction and whether or not it's built for a long postseason run. Well, despite all of the negativity and the questions that have pestered this team all season long, the Jets have now managed to seal home ice advantage for the playoffs and will likely be this year's President's Trophy winner. But does any of this matter, and do their fans really care about their regular season success, or will it all come down to their postseason performance? Well, today, let's recap the Winnipeg Jets season to see if they're a team that should be feared or a team to dismiss. True Northers, how are we feeling about our hockey team? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see by the title of this video and the intro, today we're talking about the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets have been the hottest team not only this season but for the past 2 years in the NHL, and I think it's about time we give them a full breakdown and analysis to see if this team is legit or if they're frauds. Now, like I just sort of mentioned or alluded to there's a lot of polarization when it comes to the Jets after their playoff run last year. So that begs the question, should you be buying in on the Winnipeg Jets, or should you be more reserved before their playoff run this year? Well, let's see if we can answer that question. This success for the Jets has been happening for a while now, but let's go all the way back to the beginning of the year to fully understand their season. Winnipeg exploded out of the gate, taking a commanding 15-1-0 start to their season. Their schedule was soft to start, but it had some pretty gutsy wins within the first 2 weeks, including one win against the Oilers, shutting them out 6-0, and a big win against a hot Wild team to start the year in overtime 2-1. But the most impressive stat from this stretch was the 3 shutouts from Connor Hellebuyck, who has been hands down the best goalie in the NHL for the past 2 years. Hellebuyck has basically been a lock for back-to-back Vezinas from the very beginning, and after his underwhelming 5 games in the postseason, it was almost imperative that he gain some confidence early on to help set the tone for the season, and that's exactly what happened. To this point in the year, Hellebuyck has a .924 save percentage, a 2.02 goals against average, with 7 shutouts and 44 wins in 60 games played. And given how the league is played with modern goalies, Hellebuyck has taken on a very significant load for the Jets, and should likely be in the conversation for the Hart Trophy before the season is over, based on his individual performances and how they've led to this amazing record for Winnipeg. The idea that the Jets aren't real contenders because they don't quote-unquote have a superstar just feels like an outdated take at this point. If you take a look at both Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, these two on their own have more points than half of the point leaders in teams across the NHL. Kyle Connor right now has played in 78 games, has 92 points with 38 goals, and Mark Scheifele has played in 78 games as well with 38 goals of his own and 84 points. The two have been the driving force for this team's offense and quite honestly have been underrated all season long and in the past. But let's get a little bit more into the Jets season, talking more about the grind part of the year around the months of January through March to see if we can get some more answers about how this team will perform in the playoffs. From Thanksgiving time to about the trade deadline, these are considered the dog days of the NHL season, but it can tell you a lot about a team's resilience and focus. This is probably where the Jets had their toughest time of the season, especially in late November to mid-December, when the team had their worst 10-game stretch, going 4-6-1. While I remember there being some overreaction at the time, this was quickly forgotten with the Jets finding heat almost instantly after, finishing 3-1-0 right before Christmas time. It was at this point in the season where people realized that the Jets were actually a good team, and that they were basically running away with their division title. At the start of the new year, the Jets were 8-4-0 against the top 10 teams, and 15-6-1 against the following 12, showing that they were able to compete with some of the best teams across the league. This is largely in part to them getting production from nearly every player within their lineup, and the fact that they've had some of the best team stats all year long, so let's start there. Power play percentage, the Jets are second in the league at a success rate of 29.2%. They are fourth in goals for per game at 3.38. Penalty kills 14th at a success rate of 79.4%, which could definitely use some improvements. When it comes to their goaltending stats, they are first in both goals against average at a 2.32 and save percentage with a team rate of .921, showing that their goaltending extends beyond just the success of Connor Hellebuyck. Notable individual performers include guys like Josh Morrissey, who is quietly putting up an incredible Norris-level season. Nikolaj Ehlers, who mind you is going to be a UFA this offseason, has been pretty incredible at just under a point per game pace, with 63 and 67 games played. And fellas, Gabe Vilardi has been a stud since coming over in the PLD trade. 61 points in 71 games played, just doing the most with this opportunity he's been given. Cole Perfetti, who I just honestly love watching play, highest point total of his career, 48 this season and counting at just 23 years old, so he'll be a stud moving forward for this team. And lastly, let's not forget a guy like DeMello, who a lot of people wrote off saying he wasn't good enough, but he's been pretty awesome alongside Morrissey, helping to anchor that blue line. So now we are post-trade deadline with the Jets. They're still one of the hottest teams in hockey, and despite Colorado and Dallas making big-time moves at this year's deadline, they just add a few complementary pieces and continue showing the world that they believe in this group and believe that they could win a Stanley Cup under the current structure that they have. And personally, I like this approach by the Jets. I think that both Schenn and Tanev are going to be great additions for the playoffs, and not really messing with the group that you have right now is important to show that you really do believe you can win a Stanley Cup, and it's showing with this team through the regular season, with them playing nearly every game with sky-high confidence. But with all that being said, and our deep dive of the season now coming to an end, let's answer the question of this video. Are the Jets legitimate contenders, or are they frauds? I think it's fair to say, based on the sample size and what we've seen from the Jets this year, that this postseason run is going to be different for Winnipeg. And for starters, they likely won't have to face Colorado in the first round, which is my biggest reason, and instead will either be getting St. Louis or Minnesota, who, mind you, will be a tough outing, but definitely will be a much softer landing than getting guys like McKinnon and Makar ripping on you in the first round. Where I would be most concerned about this team is with their defensive unit. I talked about Morrissey and DeMello being great, but this blue line lacks size, and that was a problem for them in the playoffs last year, and not much has really changed from season to season. So while I do believe that they're a successful blue line unit, I do think when the physicality steps up, this may just be a problem for Winnipeg going into the playoffs, so keep an eye on that. There is also the narrative of Hellebuyck folding in the playoffs, which by the numbers has been an issue in the past, but after his Four Nations performance, I feel like this is something that has become less and less of a storyline. Just overall, if the Jets can somehow step up their physicality with their blue line and continue rallying behind Connor Hellebuyck, then I think they should be considered a contender for the West. But it isn't going to be an easy task, especially with teams like Edmonton, LA, Colorado, Dallas, Vegas, and now a hot St. Louis team. It's going to be a tough road, but given what we've seen from Winnipeg and all of the success that they've had this year, I see no reason why you shouldn't believe in this team over any other team in the Western Conference. But this is my deep dive of the Winnipeg Jets and their 2024-25 season campaign. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below, and whether or not you believe in the Jets this year or feel like they're kind of frauds going into the postseason. Thank you guys as always for watching these videos. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next episode.